Hello there, Lucy, and thank you for joining us.
Hi,
I've
Georgie.
been looking forward to this.
Yeah, likewise.
So I know that you've been through a real journey yourself.
Yeah.
And I know that now you've come through the other side, you were as keen as I was to be able to share your story and help other people going through it. Because I know you found other people's recovery stories helpful, didn't you, at the start?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking back to when I watched some recovery stories, and I thought to myself then how much I wanted to be that person doing a recovery story. So it feels really good to be.
When you thought that, how did that make you feel? Did you feel, because I have a lot of people who don't even hope that they might recover?
Yeah, I think it was a big motivator for me, because both the girls had quite similar symptoms and had seemed to have been in like a similarly difficult place and unable to manage, and they got there and in their own time. And I remember thinking, yeah, maybe I will be able to. Yeah.
Looking back, what sort of symptoms do you now realise that you had that were actually stress-induced?
Yeah. So definitely back pain in my lower back, that kept coming, and I became more and more fearful of as time went on.
What age were you when that started?
So I think I was late 20s when
And
that
how old are you now?
started, and I am late 30s.
Right. Okay.
now.
So around about 10 years of.
Yeah, exactly. And also migraines, which I got, which sort of became really bad about 5 years ago, I guess.
Right.
And became so bad at one stage I was having them once a month and having to stay in a dark room for sort of 3 days at a time. Lack of sleep. I guess they were the three sort of main symptoms that stand out for me. And then latterly, the pain I got in my legs and the pain in my arms.
When did those begin to start really affecting your life?
So the legs, the pain it started in one leg, was about a year before I started seeing you. And I just had this constant pain in my lower leg, and it just hurt whenever I walked, basically.
So no accident or anything, you just began to develop pain?
No, I'd broken it when I was 18, years and years and years before, but I'd never had any problems with it once it had mended. And there didn't seem to be anything wrong with it. Countless people looked at it and x-rayed it and MRI scanned it. And they kept putting it down to the break. It must be something left over from the break. But then the other leg started having exactly the same symptoms, and I never broke that one. So that was when I started questioning that a little bit. But I couldn't even really walk. I dreaded just walking down the street, walking anywhere, and tried insoles. I think I had some from a special insole, special shoes. I had an injection at some point in there. And then and my back became really bad as well. I guess about 6 months to a year before seeing you.
And again, no injuries to your back then or previously?
No. The first time my back had ever hurt was when I was moving house in my late 20s, and I put it down to carrying things that were too heavy. When I look back now at the circumstances surrounding that time, I know it was it was not just that, or not that. And then the final thing for me was my arms. And I was going home from work, and I was typing some emails quite quickly on the train, trying to get them done before the train arrived. And suddenly, I can only describe it as they went. I just couldn't hold anything that really, really hurt, both forearms. And anyone I spoke to said, oh, it was repetitive strain injury. And so I totally assumed it was because I'd typed too fast on my phone, which I now know can't cause your arms to completely break down. And yeah, and so that was when I got really desperate, and I then couldn't work, and yeah, and that was.
And from what I remember, you saw various specialists for all these things, and various therapists, and a number of different therapists, but just couldn't get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, exactly. I went round the houses. I saw a couple of surgeons for my back who gave me injections in my spine, but that didn't help.
Did they give you a diagnosis at all or not?
They scanned it again and told me that I had a bulging disc.
Right.
But it was the same bulging disc that I'd had 10 years ago. And once I started working with you, I questioned why wasn't it painful then the whole time if the disc hadn't changed.
But we don't think of it at that time until we become more aware, do we?
Yeah, exactly. And I'd gone to see a podiatrist about my leg. And yeah, I was seeing a physio. I saw an osteopath, acupuncture. I think I was doing all those things.
Like many patients that I see.
and a lot of painkillers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a teacher.
Yeah.
But you weren't able to work for some time, were you?
No. So once I had that pain in my arms, the head teacher just said, you have to go and get yourself better. And yeah, I was devastated.
Yes, I bet you were. And I certainly remember when I first saw you, and you were in quite a dark place.
Yeah.
And very anxious.
I was really anxious, really low, really frightened because I didn't know what was happening to me or what was going to happen to me or how I could get better, because no one seemed to be able to find any answers.
When I examined you, I remember there being no physical indication that there was any problem with your back, legs or arms.
Yeah.
But you still had this debilitating pain.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I know when you first, you were recommended my book, and when you're reading it, you were like many of these people that start thinking, wow, that's me, and maybe this can help. And that first contact was just one of my free health analysis calls, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just have a chat and see, for you to be able to ask some questions and things.
Yeah, we had a quick chat and you said right away, Lucy, I can help you. Mm-hmm. And things just went up from then on. I
think you pretty quickly realised that you were going to need some more support and guidance, didn't you?
Yeah, reading your book was just so enlightening. I really recognised myself in having all those personality traits that are so typical for people who have the stress-induced symptoms, and also the strategies you suggested made real sense to me. But I definitely knew I was the type of person who needed you to guide me through it and work with me on it. Yeah,
and certainly I know from what you've said. Well, you tell me, what do you now, looking back, what do you feel were the main causes of the reason that you ended up with so many symptoms and for it to be ongoing?
Yeah, I think very much all my personality traits. I'm someone who always wants to please. I find any sort of confrontation very, very difficult. And I had so much, even though people have told me my whole life that I do a good job and I'm a good person, I never believed it, and I doubted myself in almost every respect of my life. I always felt that I wasn't good enough, even if I didn't actively recognize that, until I started exploring that. And I think a really deep lack of self-belief, probably, and putting a lot of pressure on myself to do really well, to do things perfectly, and yeah, I guess those are probably, I'm very conscientious. I think that was something. So
as a teacher, because the amount of pressure you're putting on yourself,
yeah,
to be seen to be doing well, and assessments of things.
yeah,
Pressure.
yeah. I just needed to give myself a break, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so you you weren't working when we started, so
Yeah.
you had time to really go through everything, and I know we had the weekly calls as well, didn't we?
Yeah.
Initially, so at least we could start helping you look at dealing with some of the anything from the past, which we do with everybody, looking at some of the quite innocuous things that we don't realise that from our parents has impacted us on who we are and how we feel about ourselves. So addressing the past, addressing the current stresses and the potential.
Addressing the past was really important, I think, in the process for me. Having written the timeline, and you suggested several stressful points in my life, or times in my life. You suggested that I journaled and or wrote some unsent letters to people in those involved in those times, and that I didn't realize how much repressed emotion I had about those times in my life, and it was really good to recognize that, let it out. And I think I did quite a lot of shouting and crying and burning journal papers in my back garden.
And then you were able to then move on and look back and look at what you'd learned from it and rationalize things, put them into from other people's points of view as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such an important part as well, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, that rationalizing, getting a perspective, and starting with all the journaling, I started gaining insights and about me, about other people in my life, about times in my life, and that was really enlightening and helpful. And I kept writing those down, and that really sort of started getting a momentum to getting better.
And it can be so hard, can't it, when you're going through this journey yourself, because you're in it, and it can be really hard to be able to reflect on yourself even, or what's happened. So I think what was good was being able to discuss it, wasn't it, and then be able to see it from somebody else's point of view, for example, and then be able to reflect on that.
Yeah, and that's such a good example of why it was so good to work with you, because if I had just tried to journal myself, I'm not sure I would have done it so successfully, because I wouldn't have known necessarily how to rationalize, or how to gain a perspective, not to tell the story so much, to explore the emotions and
develop that emotional awareness.
Yeah.
And I think also the other times when it's been helpful are the times when you have had a crisis, as so many people do when they're going through the program, and there's been a huge challenge, and then you go back to your fears and worries about it, and then the old stories about it. And I think that I know that from the other emails that we had over those periods, that those were the great. In the end, you can look back now and see those as really good learning opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you always highlighted that, to see it as a learning opportunity. What have I learned? And it took me a while to not to panic, and to see it as a learning opportunity, not as a fearful thing that I needed to panic about.
Absolutely, yeah. So the times when I love it when I'm working with people are where you can see the progress. And one of those for me, I know, was that email from you saying, I've just been water skiing, I'm so proud of myself.
I know.
At that time.
that was so amazing. I remember going that day, and I woke up and I did the meditation. So meditating is something that I try to do almost every day, and helps me so much and keeps me calm. And then I journaled.
It's an opportunity to really focus on. But seeing it coming up has been something that was wonderful that you could do.
Yeah. Exactly. And then I journaled, and I did put my fears on paper, ripped it up, and then said over and over, I am excited, as I went down. And then I remember coming out of the water and my brother and my dad just like cheering, and yeah, and it was fantastic. And then you were so excited. And I think that's another great reason for, another big reason of how I have got better, because every goal I've achieved, like from being able to carry a shopping bag to being able to water ski, like having you getting excited and encouraging, and that. And I remember you said at the beginning, because I didn't email you at the beginning at all because I didn't want to bother you.
Yeah.
And you said, no, you need to email me, and
You'll be
definitely
paying for my email as well. So you use it.
Yeah. And that is definitely another thing that helps so much, is that you could deal, when things came up, you could just deal with them then and there, instead of having to wait till the next appointment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've been through a fantastic journey. You've ended up facing lots of things. You've returned to work bit by bit. You've put you back full time.
Yeah.
Even went on a skiing holiday.
Yeah, I know. Another big goal.
You went on a skiing holiday over February half term, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was a big goal. And and I did give you a call at the beginning when the symptoms came back into my back. And but after one day of giving myself a break and journaling and talking to my inner child, that's been another big a big recovery help strategy. I was in the powder of peace the next day. So
fabulous.
Yeah, which was just fantastic.
There were so many things that came together all at the same time. And be able to go back on a family holiday, to be able to go skiing again, carry your bags, do all these things that you haven't been able to do after a really busy first half term back at work full time. I think you did incredibly well. Yeah,
I know. I can't believe it. And I think, as well as being able to do things that I used to be able to do, I'm now doing lots of many more new things, and I'm now in a place where I'm excited about trying things instead of being fearful because it might hurt me. So I sort of feel, even though has been really, really hard, and it was awful at one point, actually it's opened up so many great things for me. Yeah.
And as you've already said, that you have this personality, you're hard on yourself, I know you said before you're over analytical, etc.
Yeah.
You're like that. I'm like that.
Yeah.
And this is where people often feel that don't realise that this is something that we can address. That when we're aware of it, then we can do something about it.
Yeah.
But this is a life journey. This isn't about, suddenly I'm going to be somebody who's so chilled and I'm not going to react to things and I'm going to analyse. No, it's about recognising when we put pressure on ourselves, or preferably just before we start, to recognise it and to take action. And that's what part of the programme is as well, isn't it? Looking at definitely personality traits and what we can do to make life less resistant for you.
Exactly. And I think, sort of linked into that, I think I learnt through you and through the programme that my thoughts are not a part of me. And that has just been really enlightening.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because that's often one of the huge insights people get when I'm talking about that, they're like, well, who's noticing your thoughts? If you're your thoughts, who's noticing the thoughts? And often I have people go, oh, and they've never thought like that before. And once you do, and you realise, yes, okay, it's not always easy, that we can work on that area as well, then that's where more progress can be made.
Yeah, and I remember when I read your book, I bought it and I flicked through very briefly when I first got it, and it opened on the page of reducing your inner chatter, I think. And I just thought, oh, this is the book for me. I need that. Yeah, and yeah.
I think you've made, it's been an interesting journey, and I think you've been amazing through it, and really helped with yourself as well. I know you've been reinforcing any achievements as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
Reminding yourself.
Yeah, and I still, every night, I have a book. At the back, I write down 3 things I've achieved in the day. And in the front, I write 3 things that I'm grateful for. And that's which keeps up that positive.
So wonderful, positive habits to keep up, aren't they?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
But Georgie, I couldn't have done it without you. And gosh, I'm so grateful.
Oh, you're very welcome. This is what makes my work worthwhile, Lucy, working with people like you. So thank you very much.
Well,
thank you so much for giving us this time, because I know it is so important for people who are going through the journeys themselves.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks.